Hello, this is Ivana.
This is Yaw.
And you're listening to the podcast Life in Black and White.
And all the shades in between.
We share all things life, relationships, marriage, parenting, race, and much more. If you enjoy listening to us, then please follow or subscribe to this podcast. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook under Life in Black and White. Welcome back, my friends.
Welcome back.
To this amazing podcast. Have you left a review yet? Straight to the point, right? If not, please do so, because it really helps us to get this podcast discovered. So I celebrated my 40th birthday last weekend.
Yay.
And yay. So we had a very nice family weekend. Yao was amazing, and he prepared such a great time, such a great evening for me. On day, he prepared a nice day as well, but the boys had different plans, or should I say, baby Yao, our cherubs.
Yeah, our little cherubs.
Yeah, he's just going through the tantrum stage, where he throws tantrums for no apparent reason. Although I'm sure he has his reason.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to hear them. So today, we want to talk about unconscious bias. And despite it can be seen as a heavy subject, but we don't want to go heavy or deep. Maybe deep, but still keep it light.
Yeah, let's just see how
it goes there.
Yeah.
And I promise to not make any jokes.
Oh,
that's a good start, no?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it's such a complex subject. We could talk about it for hours, of course. But what I really want to highlight, and I promise this is not a scripted episode, and any reactions I get from Yao will be real, in real time, yeah? Because he has no idea what I'm going to say.
Oh.
It's a good thing we're editing this, right?
Yeah.
What I want to highlight is the fact that people do have unconscious bias, and they don't recognize it. They're not aware of it. Most people, anyway, including me in the past. Yeah.
Okay.
I would go everywhere and say, I'm not racist. I don't have any bias. I'm live and let. What is that word? Live and let live. I don't have anything against anyone. Depends how people behave, all that stuff. But after I married Yao, I understood I'm so biased, yeah. And I recognize it in other people now as well, when I hear them talking, and they don't realize what they're saying. They say something out of habit or as a joke, but I see what's behind it now. Very deep-rooted beliefs often that we grew up with. And I really, really want that to be acknowledged more, because I believe that the main reason people don't want to acknowledge they have bias is because it's seen as something negative. No, you don't want to be seen as someone who has prejudice. But I don't think that's necessarily a negative thing if it's not your fault, if you grew up with it, like someone planted the seed in your mind. It's not your fault. So I don't see it as a negative, as long as you're aware of it and can do something, like me, yeah. Specifically, I don't have anything against Black people, but we grew up in a country where there is a lot of, what's the right word? Not hate, but but maybe it is the right word, against Romanians, okay? And I didn't realize until, like I said, marrying Yao, that I was planted these seeds of prejudice or bias, what's the better word, as a small child, and all of us were, yeah, who live there, but other countries, doesn't matter, I can just speak for myself. So we were planted these seeds, we were raised that way, without, I'm sure, other people realizing either. So now even though, consciously, I would say I have no bias, but sometimes I catch myself thinking something instinctively that shows the opposite, that says otherwise. Yeah.
Okay.
For instance, I go on a plane, yeah, and very often we have Romanians there, and I sit in my seat, I'm happy, and I see a group of Romanians approaching, yeah, in the aisle, and that was one of the first thought I realized that I had bias was, oh my god, I hope they don't sit next to me, yeah, and in the past I wouldn't have even give it another thought, like, oh, it's just a thought, like it's nothing. um but it's not nothing, and I'm so glad that I actually acknowledge this now. And this is just one of many many examples I could give you. Yeah. uh, how many times I catch myself thinking something that is full of prejudice, sometimes more even than that, but it's not something I consciously do. It's just something that pops in my mind, like without thinking. Sometimes I don't even catch the thought. Yeah. And I spoke about this to this lady here in a local cafe, and she was one of the few white people who admitted this is actually a thing. And she admitted, I have prejudice. I only realized recently that sometimes I catch myself saying something and then I'm astonished by what I just said. Yeah. And that's great that she actually said that. And I wish more people actually acknowledged this. Yeah. That how biased we are against different races or nations, whatever. But I believe we all have certain bias. Yeah. And just to give you another example, like when I'm looking at you and you have so much to say, I can't wait. You want to say now and then I'll continue.
No,
Yeah.
please carry on.
Example from back home. So I go back home, say, and I talk about this with a friend. She's trying to convince me she's not biased. It depends how they behave. It's not about the skin color. It's not about nothing. If you're nice to me, I'll be nice. If you're not nice to me, I won't be nice. Yeah. I was like, okay, let's just leave it there. This is not the case, but let's just believe what you want to believe. A few minutes later, yeah, she no, I stood up to go to the toilet and I had my wallet on the table. And she says, oh, don't leave your wallet here because the Romanians are just next table, yeah. It was just, instinctive. And I was like, see, this is what I'm talking about. Like, you can tell me you're not, but you are. And it's not your fault. It's not something, I'm not saying that to judge you, but I just bloody want you to acknowledge it. Yeah. That's my point. Now you go. I want to see your perspective on what I just said.
I think obviously when you turn around and you say the program, I do believe it's a certain level of programming. There's a certain level of, if somebody's saying something to you often enough, you start believing.
Exactly. It's like wash your hands when we were on the bus. Wash your hands because Romanians were here. Wash your hands. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I know, and you grew up with that, listening to that, so of course you know.
But then there is a point as well when you start learning about, even if you're not in it, you're learning about the wider world, the wider audience. You have availability of information and stuff to do that maybe doesn't come directly from your parents or whatever. You start making decisions for yourself, right?
Yes.
So it's at those points and stuff there that sometimes you start challenging yourself. You start challenging the views of what the world kind of presents to you.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. Like consciously, even though I grew up with all that, consciously, I never had anything against them. I was nice to them. I was polite, unless I had a reason not to be. Like.
Yeah.
But those bias are there. They were there. They will be there forever. On a certain, to an extent.
Okay.
Yeah. But even if you because people feel like you have to, I don't know, call people names, like publicly judge a race to be racist or to have bias, but it's not. This is not the case. It's actually calling people names is the least of my worries, to be honest, because that's just being stupid. That's not being racist.
Well,
Not
that
necessarily.
could be racist and stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no two ways about that and stuff. But I do understand what you mean, that sometimes there's something underlying
Yeah.
there that you kind of. I remember, and this frightened me more than anything else, that there was, can't remember who the person was, but I was watching something either on TV a long time ago, and it was talking about National Front, or something along those lines, um, and there was a stereotypical kind of view of this person, and who, you know, if you saw them in the street, you would think, oh, they've got to be a certain way and whatever and things. And this professor that you say professor, so you automatically, especially I was fairly young at the time, you automatically assume that if someone is kind of worldly, they would have other viewpoints rather than just what's been imprinted and stuff. And sometimes it's not just imprinted because of um, maybe family or whomever. Sometimes it's printed because of um, experience, right? Someone's had a bad experience and stuff with a race, and that's not to say that the race or whomever and stuff hasn't had bad experiences with. So that kind of inbuilt kind of hatred of each other, automatically. But this professor, there was interviews talking about the right wing, and how people kind of have a viewpoint of why obviously I'm saying it from my viewpoint, that why blacks should only be kind of given a certain level of freedom, and really only be given a certain level of ability to kind of progress in. And I was listening to this, and it wasn't like a fascist. And apologies, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that if you've got a skinhead and things like that, you're a fascist and things. That's not what I'm saying, because I've got loads of mates and stuff. I've got loads of mates who black. I've got loads of mates and stuff who are skinheads, and they're probably, it's not like that. But at the time, this is what I had inbuilt in me, was, it was more likely you're going to see that from that group of people. This guy was a professor, and some of the stuff that he was saying was so kind of in depth, and it was like it's like he basically read Mein Kampf and was regurgitating it. To look at him, he's very kind of studious. He had glasses, and he had the patches, and you're thinking, oh, actually, he's going to say something, but everything that he spewed was absolute, to the core hatred of a race, to the core, to the absolute core. And what worried me is it wasn't my kind of, and it's my bias. It wasn't my bias of thinking that this is, I will only see this kind of hatred from a certain set of people. It's not like that. It's not like that. Hatred can come in so many different forms and from so many different sources, and so many different people. It's like, I love the fact, I must admit, it's a bit cringeworthy, and it's a bit painful to hear sometimes when you're talking about admitting to it, but you need to admit to it. However, somebody doesn't like that you're admitting to it, that's neither here nor there. It's about that person's journey. Then once you kind of realized it, and you thought to yourself, what the hell am I doing? Why do I think like this? Once you allow people to start asking those questions, if somebody admits it and they're looking to do something, by just labeling it as that and
Mm,
just saying da, 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 that doesn't do anything. That doesn't allow people to change, and that doesn't allow people to move
exactly.
forward and things. If they recognize it and they're actively trying to do something about it and things, you know, in the perfect world, somebody come along, oh, I realised, and it just stops. It doesn't work
Yeah.
like that because there's so many nuances. There's
It
so
took me
many things.
years to
Yeah,
actually understand fully.
and it's just one of those things that I'm not saying that I'm grateful and things, but I do appreciate that if you do understand it and you do recognise it, you are trying to do something about
Something
it.
exactly.
You task someone so quickly and so easily to say, okay,
Mm,
because you recognize it, that's you. What is the point?
mm,
Because it means that there is absolutely no progression and there's no way forward. Because if that person feels it's too hard and it's, there's no um, reward and stuff for trying to kind of do, maybe some people will turn around and say, well, if you believe I'm that and you won't believe when I'm trying to do that,
mm,
why should I even try that?
mm. When you talked about the behavior that people judge or have bias, like this is a perfect example for Romanians back home, because everyone would tell you it's their fault because how they behave. Yeah, I don't judge them based on the skin. I judge their behavior. Yeah,
Yeah,
which again, partially is true, but partially is what we talked about. But at the same time, what I realized is that because when I speak of behavior, like there is a lot of criminality, they they have the best hygiene and stuff, living conditions. But now I realize, like, if you're born to it, what else can you grow up to be than the same? Yeah. And then people would say, but they were given options. They were giving, yeah, but with adults, you can't really change adults. It
you
would
can
need
change.
to.
You can
You
change
can.
adults.
I mean, like this is not the way that you give people who are, I don't know, in their 30s, 40s, flats for free. Expect them to change? No, of course not. This is not the way forward. It needs to go much deeper than that, and definitely start with the kids. Um,
There's
but my point is, like, people sometimes use it as an excuse to justify the bias. Like, I
yeah,
only it's their fault. Yeah, if they didn't behave like that, then I wouldn't say nothing. So, what do you think of that?
and we had this conversation when I was in Slovakia before that, like you said, um, if you if you like, if say you gave somebody £1 million,
Mm,
what's the likelihood in um, a year, 2 years, even 5 years down the line, they're going to have that money?
mm.
It's not going to be because they don't understand. You wouldn't
They have
understand.
the mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't understand like the nuances about understanding how to work that finance and how to make that finance work for you. What really feasible for you to suddenly buy? You could buy a house and you still wouldn't be able to pay off um,
Mm,
a full house if that's what if you didn't really think about it and things in this climate and things especially. But it's if you're a young child and all you know
mm,
is hatred from everybody that you meet,
mm-hmm,
everybody that you see, everybody that you come into contact with. Say you've got, one of those, oh, you know what, I'm not going to listen to what I'm hearing from
mm-hmm,
some people that are around me. Actually, I'm going to try and have an open mind and see how the world kind of treats me.
mm-hmm,
But then from the world and stuff that your immediate world that you're living in, you're getting this, you smile to someone and
mm.
you're getting suspicious looks. You go near someone and all of a sudden somebody puts their hand on their bags.
Did that happen to you?
Yeah, you go certain places, and you're walking, and all of a sudden the hand kind of reaches down to the bag to say, Just
unconsciously
no,
sometimes.
no, and I get it. I'm not saying that this stuff is easy. It's not. If it was easy, it would, it'd be something that we could sort out within next. There's absolutely generations of
Mm.
inbuilt kind of not hatred, but inbuilt
Well,
kind of so bias against both sets. You've only known that pain and stuff. You're going to turn around and teach your children be careful with who you interact with because I don't want you to feel my pain.
mm,
If you can't get a particular job, but you've gone through, so you've not listened to anybody, you've stuck at it. I don't care what people say. I'm still going to stick at it. I'm going to go through school. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And then you even get to a point where you've tried and tried everything you've had, that you've got in you.
mm,
And at the end of the day, you still don't, you're not accepted to be part of anything unless somebody has got the foresight to think, you know what, this could be a good person
mm,
to have in us. We don't understand maybe some other cultural differences.
mm.
Actually, let's try and use this cultural difference to kind of bring more people on board.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Just doing one thing is not enough.
no,
Like it
exactly.
happened back home, they got some free flats and stuff, and then people complained that they, what's the word, trashed it.
Yeah,
But what do you expect? Like they don't have that mindset, like you talked about, yeah. You compare it to the finance mindset. They are not there. They're not ready to get real help and support. Maybe on some level they don't believe that.
maybe they should have just it needed to continue.
Yeah.
And it, like you said, if you're talking about children, and this is, I, you get to a certain point where a child recognizes another child um, for their race, and there's input from their environment.
Mm,
Right? There's, I'm not saying you can have children who absolutely just see you as a different color, or there's
mm,
something I'm not quite used to. This is intriguing. This is different, but the added connotations and stuff to these things
mm.
are added as they grow
Yeah.
and they're fed more information. Um, if you have people kind of intermingling in things a bit more so from younger, they know to kind of interact with each other. They still have their cultures. They still, um, you know, are able to kind of, if there's certain beliefs and stuff that they follow, and it's great. There's nothing wrong and stuff with that, but they know how to intermingle,
Mm,
and you grow up together. And after a few maybe generations, but I think there's certain obviously cultures and stuff who have been through
mm.
so much, and you know it's not something that can be quickly
Yeah.
fixed. But
And
sorry, go on.
no, it's just another thing I wanted to address is, and I hear that a lot, that let's talk about like black people now, yeah, as an example. People say, oh, but they're so paranoid. I used to say the same, if you remember.
Yeah,
They're so paranoid, like you have in the shop, yes, something, I don't know, happens. You don't want to, or you don't give someone a bad look, and they say, oh, is that because I'm black or something like that? Or you don't want to shake my hand, you have some reason, oh, it's because I'm black, yeah. And from our perspective, it's like, what are they talking about?
mm,
But you explained that to me very, very well. That is like, of course, it depends on the person as well.
yeah.
But if that's what you hear your whole life,
Then all of a sudden,
white
as
people don't get it, what it's like. Yeah.
it's,
Say you have lots of bad experiences throughout your whole life, then it's natural that you expect that.
and
No?
I don't want people to kind of go away from this thinking to themselves, oh, if you're white or whatever race and stuff you are, like, there's been progress. There's absolutely been progress in life. Um, from what it was, but there's still progress to just happen, though.
No, but I would like to really address this, that you're not paranoid. Like so many
Yeah.
people think that you're paranoid, that you expect everyone to hate you for no reason. But this is not the case. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That there should be more understanding, or trying to understand the other party.
I think sometimes you find that maybe at work or somewhere that you may not necessarily have had a conversation with a certain someone and things. You find out, oh wow, and then you know you start to understand and you start to get to know and but yeah, like you know, in your case in terms of Romanians, I can't remember how many Romanians I saw in any of the shops and things that we went into. So if that's the case, and they really can't, and you know they can't get work, they can't do. What are you going to do to make sure that your family survives? Anything that you can.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, if someone has bad experience with, say, Romanian, they have prejudice, and they say it's because how they behave.
Yeah.
But if they had the same experience with a white person, they wouldn't.
No, they would say it's that person.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the difference as well, no? It's just interesting how people justify without realizing. I'm not saying it's like in a negative way. It's just something that needs to be acknowledged. And like I said, some people think that you are paranoid. We can compare it to women's right or feminism, no? Like, if you don't get, I don't know, the same salary as your colleague, male colleague, you automatically think, oh, is that because I'm a woman? Yeah, maybe. It's just something that's been with you for years. It's engraved in you. And it's very similar, I think, that we can't blame women for thinking that they're not being
fairly treated.
It's the very same case. Another thing I wanted to point out is the bias when you remember when I was trying to find like a virtual assistant for me, yeah, and I was going through applications, and you know, when there was a name that was clearly, people say not white, but it just doesn't sound right, but you know, the kind of name that I couldn't even read, immediately I felt biased, like this is not going to work, because immediately I thought, oh, they wouldn't be good, or they wouldn't speak English enough or something, and they can be even better than me, because I had so many experiences where people were with these kind of names were native English speakers, say very, very intelligent, but the bias is there. And I read about it. There's actually a thing, no, when the CV, like when you have interview, that people prefer to invite people to the interview, people with white names. And that's another thing, isn't it? Like this hidden bias that people are not aware of.
I don't think it was hidden.
Really?
No, because I'd like to think that we're all a bit more inclusive and less that way. But I know from generations and things that some from an Asian background or some from African background back in the day used to have their children's name with an English name.
Like you as well, no? It's Yaw. Automatically people know you are British, but people don't know it unless they meet you, do they?
So a lot of families used to say that it'd be John, whatever their native name is, and whatever their surname.
Yeah.
So yeah, it happens. It happens a lot.
But what do you think it is? Because in my case, it was really like the English thing. I really thought they wouldn't speak English, but I know that's not the case for everyone who is not keen to work with people with non-white names. Do you think it can be the bias as well against the race?
It's not. I don't think it was so much more at the time that people were doing this. You know, we were living in a totally different country.
Yeah.
Than we maybe are now. I'm not saying that there still isn't bias going on, but there was more. You know, it was a very much white, predominantly white kind of corporate lifestyle, and you know that mix didn't really happen so much. It took pioneers and people who broke through those barriers and stuff to be in a position where people could use the names that they, you know, I do believe that we've become a lot more integrated, and you know, and that whole inclusion has progressed. But yeah, I'm sure that you know that bias is still there to a certain extent.
You know what else? Oh, sorry, you were going to say?
No, no, no.
Okay. You know what else I realized? That I hadn't realized I was white race until I married you. I didn't
realize that you were white.
Yeah.
What?
I didn't perceive it as a race.
Okay.
Because I didn't have to. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And now actually it is a race. And all this white privilege. How would you describe this white privilege thing?
Oh, how long have we got?
I know.
And it's
because people don't get it.
People do get it because it's so much out there now. You know, there's a lot of things and stuff out there that talks a lot about white privilege. Some people say that white privilege isn't there. Some people agree. And I think my thing is the journey's obviously begun, but it's still early doors. Yeah. You know, there's certain things that certain people, someone would find, you know, just next to nothing because it's just there in front of them. And some people struggle a lot to get to that same position or not even get to that position.
Do you know what else you helped me to realize? Because I used to say a lot of jokes that were just jokes for me. And I remember at the very beginning, you pointed out, why would you say that joke? And I said, because it's not, I don't take it seriously. Like when we say it with friends, we know it's a joke. It's not real. It's not that we don't have anything against the specific, you know, race or whatever it was. But now I know, or tell me if I'm wrong, but it's not innocent at all. You saying these kind of jokes plants the seeds as well, creates bias on a different level maybe, but it does, doesn't it? I know that now, but I don't know how to describe it. It's just like a web that spreads with every jokes, every remark, every thought you think. It spreads. So it's not innocent at all. Yeah. Okay. And I don't say these jokes anymore unless they're very funny. Sorry. I couldn't resist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I miss those.
But you know what? Another thing I once pointed out online. Oh, that was a mistake. No, but these conversations are important. I pointed out that I understand the hardest part about being a mom to mixed race children is knowing that they will have it hard on some level, because we can't avoid it, and just be strong enough to embrace that, like it's a part of life, and make sure they be strong enough. But so many people come back to me and say, oh, don't be so paranoid, or every child has it hard in a way. Yeah, it's not different, and that makes my blood boil because it is really different. And
it is and it isn't. It is and it isn't.
What do you mean? If you're picked because you wear glasses, not the same as, you know.
What they're trying to say, and I'm not justifying what they're saying at all, because if you go through some of the things that some people go through,
Mm,
um, turning around and saying that, oh, your hair is this and whatever, it's not the same as somebody going to your fundamental being and saying that you are
mm-hmm.
this. You can change your hair and all this and things, but fundamentally who you are, um, that hurts.
Mm,
When you know that you haven't done anything wrong, you haven't picked on anybody, or you're just trying to kind of be one of
mm,
people and stuff around you. You just want friends and things, and
yeah,
people, yeah,
yeah.
it's
Even
it's
if they
really
don't
hard.
mean it that way, it is perceived that way. Definitely.
It's really hard.
Yeah. And it's also to do with what's to do with the history. It was very nice explained in Harry and Meghan's document, all the history of Black people. And like, Henry asked me once, Mommy, I read in this book, I don't know where he read it. It's too soon for that for him. But he said that some people kill Black people just because they don't like their skin.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
and
in the.
what do I tell him? What do I say to that? Like, yes, it is true. Yeah, even these days now in some states in the US now, I think you still get um
It's everywhere, isn't it?
yeah,
It's not just US. It's not a US problem. It's a global problem.
yeah,
People die, and people get killed just because of their race.
yeah,
Not a black thing, not just a black thing, but across many nationalities and things. I think he was reading that
Black
children
history, no?
about Martin Luther King and million million man march type thing. That's where he was. He may have seen at the beginning. I think we needed to leave him to get a bit older to truly kind of
Yeah,
understand it, these
but these
things.
things, yeah, how do you explain it to them? It's not the same.
It's difficult. It's because if somebody's going through pain of someone turning around and saying, they're going through a period of trauma because somebody's continuously kind of, they're going to feel that pain.
Hmm,
Okay, it's different where it's kind of come from and where it's kind of based and the origins and stuff of it maybe,
hmm.
but they're still going to feel the pain. You don't want any child to feel any
Of
kind of pain,
course,
right?
100%.
Um,
I
so
mean,
yeah, when that person is saying, "Oh, um, every child goes through pain," every child does go through pain, but those intensities and those
different.
are
Yeah,
are different.
yeah.
They are different, but there's no way of really relate. Well, I don't have the words to relate it. Maybe somebody has and probably has written about it that explains it in a much better way,
Hmm.
and truly kind of feel that pain.
Do you feel like you struggled as a child being Black? Or,
Had my ups and downs.
yeah?
Yeah, of course.
Mm. And people say often, yeah, he grew up in London. He couldn't have suffered. It's
Why?
cosmopolitan city, a lot of races together. That's what I hear a lot. Like you couldn't have, because it's London.
Christ,
Uh,
really?
I would say the more races, the more fights, or not fights, hate. Is that? Why
That's
do you think that happens even in places where are cosmopolitan cities? When
I
people
will.
are used to each other, seeing different races is not like you're one of them.
But it's not just. It's not. You could unpick this. It takes so much more to unpick, and I don't have that answer.
Mm,
Um, why does anybody hate anybody else?
mm,
Because they do. They don't understand that person. They may feel that they understand them. They may have preconceptions of what that person is, or the culture that person comes from.
mm,
But it doesn't. There's nothing there that I could turn around and say, well, this happens because of this.
mm. It's
People
true.
just don't understand each other, and they've never been given the time to really understand each other unless you get past, you get a chance to really spend some time with someone from a different culture and realize that actually some of the things that they're being, told maybe outside of the schools and outside of things aren't right.
It is progressing, but some of the things that were happening in the past, like what was it that your dad saw on the door? No blacks, no dogs, something like that. No, things like that. Oh my god, it just breaks my heart just imagining it. What was it? Was it writings on the doors, pubs and stuff, or where was it?
It was like bed and breakfasts and things where I think it was. I think it was no blacks, no Irish, or no dogs.
Oh my god!
So even in that, if you're referring to Irish are white, no?
Yeah.
Predominantly.
Yeah.
They're white.
No, we're speaking about unconscious bias in general, not against specific.
No, but what I'm trying to say and stuff there is, they've gone through stuff. There's a whole world of people who've gone through a lot of pain and things. That's not a black thing. It's just a hatred of a different 100%. Culture.
Even black people can have bias against white or any other race. No one is excluded, I'd say, right? Okay, so we can wrap it up with perhaps saying or sharing our views on what we can do as a society to make a difference. I think I actually shared my views already, that just be aware of what you're thinking. I think that's just acknowledging I am biased and this is when I'm biased, and maybe try and challenge that thinking in some situations. That's the best we can do right now. That's what helped me too. It didn't happen overnight, of course. It was a journey, years,
It's still a journey.
It's still, what do you think?
Recognize, try and change.
So it wasn't as lighthearted as I wanted it or thought it would be, but I hope you really enjoyed this episode and that it, made you think about specific things in a different light, perhaps, and that it will help us all to make a difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening, and see you next in 2 weeks. Bye.
Take care. Bye.